Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the computerized bookkeeping class. Our schedule is every 9 to 10:30, Friday to Saturday, correct? So, so today is our first meeting, and it's not gonna be like this all the time, since all the materials will be made available to you in Moodle. So we only meet whenever I feel like it's required, or if a lot of you will request to have a virtual meeting. Okay. Just for everyone's information, I am recording this session because although it seems like most of us are in this meeting, I still think that there are a few people that were not able to get in, or it probably didn't suit their schedule. Okay, so that no one is left behind, I am recording this session and it will be made, or the recording will then later on be made available in the Moodle platform as well. Okay, so the meeting really is to set your expectation as to what will be, or how the subject um, will go about, right? Um, if this was a time when there's no COVID or there's no pandemic and we're not restricted to meet physically, the platform that we would have used would have been QuickBooks Desktop, right? So the UC main laboratory is already set up for QuickBooks Desktop. And obviously, we cannot do that, right? Because if we do, that would require each one of you to install QuickBooks Desktop on your computers. And one limitation there is that the license, we don't have the license. And then secondly, even if we do, some of you may only be using mobile phones, right? No laptop or no personal computer. So in that case, you still wouldn't be able to download or use a QuickBooks desktop version, even though we have the license. And so I decided to use QuickBooks Online instead. Okay, so later on, as we go along, I will explain to you what QuickBooks Online is. But I would like you to understand that this is basically just bookkeeping, right? So if you have undergone accounting 101 or accounting 1 or basic accounting, so you already know what's bookkeeping, right? So the manual bookkeeping is where you have your physical books of accounts, right? So you have your journal, you have your ledger, you have your worksheets, and then you do your financial statements, right? All from your um, post-closing trial balance, or sorry, your trial balance, right? So all of those you did manually, right? So with the use of pen and paper, and of course a calculator, right? So in this class, we are pretty much doing the same thing, except that we get away with the pen and the paper as well as the calculator, right? Because this is computerized bookkeeping. So all your entries will be done using a computer or using a device, because nowadays, um, a lot of accounting softwares are also made available um, using mobile phones via Android app or iOS applications. So that's how things have improved greatly. And why QuickBooks, right? So if you may ask, why are we using QuickBooks? Okay, for one, it's not my decision to use QuickBooks. So UC has adopted again QuickBooks Desktop, but QuickBooks has several versions. So you have desktop, and then you have online, and then you also may have remote desktop. So desktop is what we're using in the campus. Now we will be using the online version. And then why QuickBooks? Well, QuickBooks is widely used all over the world, right? So mainly um, in the US. So most US companies use QuickBooks. For small companies though, because if big companies, if I mean for the big companies, they use SAP, could be Oracle, or could be a more sophisticated accounting or management information system. But if you're a big to medium or small to medium company, most likely these companies use QuickBooks. And other competitor of QuickBooks will be Xero. So Xero, spelled out as Xero, is mainly used by um, Australian companies as well as few European companies. So those, I mean, that's one of the uh, toughest competitor of QuickBooks in as far as accounting software is concerned. Personally, I use QuickBooks. I know a little bit of Xero, um, but if you know how to use QuickBooks, you pretty much, uh, I mean, it's not going to be difficult for you to learn Xero as well. Now, why are you taking this subject, right? I understand that you are not all, I mean, none of you is actually a BSA student, right? So you're not accountancy major. Um, but why take bookkeeping? Because bookkeeping is not really just for accountants, right? So bookkeeping is just one area of accounting, but it's basically for everybody. Now, you may come across people who are actually not in the field of accounting, but they're doing bookkeeping. Especially during the time when in our local setting, the BIR do not regulate the practice of bookkeeping yet. So we may know some people, people of age who are doing bookkeeping services, and yet they're not necessarily accounting or business graduate. But because of the experience that they have with processing papers, with the BIR, with recording entries into the books of accounts, they have become bookkeeper, right? But slowly, as things are improving, the BIR required that if you are going to do bookkeeping services and you sign financial statements, that you have to be accredited with them, right? So if you are to be accredited, then you have to undergo some studies, right? So it could be formal studies or could be studies through TESDA. So TESDA actually conduct um, free bookkeeping classes, and then there's also an exam that you will take. It's for NC3, I think. Yeah, NC3. That you become a certified bookkeeper, right? So if you're a certified bookkeeper, you have a TESDA license. Um, that would mean you can engage in bookkeeping services, right? Um, so let me go back to the question why you are taking this subject. Although you are business, you're taking business courses. Well, for one, because you can actually do bookkeeping services, right? Anybody can do bookkeeping services so long as we know our basic accounting, right? And it- can you can you actually do it while studying? Maybe not in the local setting, right? Because if you're a bookkeeper, you'd actually have to go to your clients, get onto their books, do the actual recording. You may also be required to visit the BIR for some payments and paper processing. So that may not be applicable to you just yet, especially if you're full-time students. But the good thing is we are doing online bookkeeping. right? So this is computerized bookkeeping. Therefore, it's most likely an online bookkeeping. Now, if I would say, if you're very interested with, say, doing a part-time job, you can actually do so with the use of online job market, right? So if you're equipped and you know how to do Zero or QuickBooks online, you can apply for a virtual bookkeeper, right? A virtual bookkeeper, or sometimes a virtual assistant for US clients. So US clients will be your target because, again, most US clients use QuickBooks. I rarely come across Australian clients who use QuickBooks. They mostly use Zero, right? So that's an opportunity for you that if you take this subject seriously, then after this, or even if you are still in the process of completing the subject, you can actually engage in um, in virtual bookkeeping or virtual assistant type of part-time job, right? So that's again an opportunity for you without you having to go out, have a physical office and whatnot. It's a good way for you to leverage on your available time, you know, because now that we are doing pure online classes, you no longer have to travel, you no longer have to um, a lot of your time when um, this pandemic hasn't happened yet, spent also on traveling, right? So that's no longer an issue for you guys since most of you are studying from home, right? So the time that you save, you can actually spend looking for a part-time job. And how do you do that? First, you have to equip yourself, right? So one way to equip yourself is to learn um, some new skills, right? New skills, new system. And this is one of those, right? So you learn how to do online bookkeeping with the aid of QuickBooks Online, right? So again, the skill that you will learn will be online bookkeeping. The system that you will be using will be QuickBooks Online, okay? Before I go forward, is there any question? If you have, I would like you to put that in a message. So type that question into the message box. Okay, so it appears that there is no question whatsoever. So at this point, I will quickly show you um, a real scenario of using QuickBooks Online, a real scenario of being an online bookkeeper. Okay, so I'm actually doing that myself. I have clients in the US where I do virtual bookkeeping services. I also do US taxation. So, as you may not know, the US systems are mostly online, right? So, even if you are in the US and we are in the Philippines, we can still do um, accounting, taxation, and bookkeeping jobs, right? Same thing with the BPO industry, right? So customer service, technical support, they're actually being um, rendered in our IT park, right? So they are servicing mostly US clients, but that area there is mostly taking on calls, right? So answering phone calls for customer support as well as technical support for US clients. But for us professionals, we also have same opportunity, except that instead of taking on calls, we actually have our own clients, and we may take some calls with other clients as well. So we use Zoom, we use Google Meet oftentimes to communicate with clients, right? But the kind of service that we do is a little different from what the call center representatives do, right? The advantage of that is that you earn in dollars, but you're not physically in the US, right? So you don't have to leave your family, um, the comfort of your homes to be able to work. So that's the beauty of the virtual job market. Okay, so we'll be presenting to you my screen. Hold on. So this is just going to be a quick demonstration, just so you have an idea of what you're actually going to get into. Okay, if you feel that it's a bit intimidating because there's just too many terminologies that I will be using that you haven't understood yet, don't worry, because you will come to understand that as we go along. Okay, so basically what I'm gonna be showing you now is just um, a preview, okay, a preview of what you would be getting into should you decide to take the subject seriously. Okay, so I'm gonna present my screen and I'm gonna share this with you guys. So give me a second. So I hope that you're all seeing my screen. Okay, so this is a Chrome tab or a Chrome page that I have for one client. Okay, he's in the US, and as you can see that all I have here are all my bookmarks, right? So all these bookmarks are for the dedicated for the clients, and some more bookmarks here, right? So these are all the systems that I use to be able to serve my client, right? So primarily we communicate through Gmail, right? So all communications mostly are from here. Oftentimes we also communicate via WhatsApp. So WhatsApp, as you can see here, there's a desktop version. Although I'm not going to be able to open this now because it has to be connected with my phone. My phone has to be connected to the internet to be able to access the WhatsApp from here. But that's just for you to look into. So these are the emails from the client, and let me go as far back as August. All right, so as you can see here, there are invoices from the client that he forwarded to me, and these are the invoices that I need to enter into QuickBooks, right? So how do I do that? So QuickBooks Online, here you go. So this is a QuickBooks Online, right? So I already have my credentials. Now you may be asking, are we gonna have the same thing, right? Yes, you will have, because you cannot learn if you're not actually doing it. It's different when you're actually just viewing it than you actually doing it, right? So later on in the first video, um, I it I will be providing you with a link for you to register with QuickBooks, and there is a 30-day trial for QuickBooks wherein you will not be paying anything. You will not be required to enter credit card information, and I trust that you know how to navigate through um, registering your 30-day free trial with QuickBooks, because you know how to first create your own email and your Facebook account, right? So it's just as easy as creating an email or a Facebook account, pretty much like that. So it's not very complicated at all. Now you may be asking, our class will run from now until maybe mid-December, right? So that's not just 30 days, it's more than 30 days. So as early as now, what I'm going to be asking you is come up with 2 emails, right? 2 email addresses. Again, it's not difficult to create more than one email account. You can do so with Gmail. So create two or have 2 Gmail accounts ready. So one email account for the first 30-day free trial, and then the second email account for the second 30-day free trial. Okay? Because by the time you're past the 30-day trial, it will expire, right? Then QuickBooks will ask you to pay. I'm not gonna I'm not gonna be requiring you to pay, but if you feel like you can use that account for future purposes, then feel free to do so. But it's not a requirement. Okay. So the workaround is for you to have another email account wherein you will be registering another 30-day free trial. Okay. So I believe that the whole course you can complete them in just 60 days. All right. Because this will be self-paced. I'm not going to be requiring you to say only limit yourself to taking up the material um, for an hour. It's not going to be that way. So I will preload all the materials in Moodle, and you can take them as you are available. Okay. So if you feel like you can take on more lessons in a day than just spending an hour, then feel free to do it. Right. So this will be self-paced. You will be managing your own time. What I'm going to be doing will be to load all the materials in there and then load some quizzes. And then um, there is a facility in Moodle wherein you can send me an email for any support, for any question. But if it's question and support, I don't like you to do it via private messaging. I would like you to post it as a discussion material in our discussion board, okay? Because your question may also be the same question that your classmates may have, all right? So that when I answer, it gets posted to a discussion board for everyone to see, right? So I don't want to be seeing a lot of messages in my inbox for the same question. Imagine the time I will be spending to answer your questions, right? So if you have questions, clarifications regarding the material, your avenue will be the discussion board. Okay. So it's going to be like a forum. You put there a subject, what the question is like, and then in the content you detail there your question, your concern, your inquiries. Okay. And then I will reply to it. Then all of the thread, it will become a thread, and which will be available for all members of the class to see. Okay, so that's how we're going to be doing it. Now, going back to our preview, so this is a real account, you guys, right? So this is a real account. You have here the menu options, right? So you have banking, expenses, your sales, project, we will not tackle that. Payroll, we will not tackle that. Reports. So reports will be your income statement, your balance sheet, your cash flow. So do you think you will be doing it manually? No, you won't, right? Because this is computerized bookkeeping, wherein the moment you enter your transactions, it gets updated to your balance sheet, your income statement, and the rest of your financial statements, right? So there is no more manual trial balance wherein you will have a problem balancing your accounts, right? It's not going to be the case anymore with a computerized bookkeeping. So as soon as you enter your transactions, your financial statements become updated. So all here are your reports. And of course, if you see a star here that's in green, that means it's tagged as a favorite. So let me show you. So say this is a profit and loss statement, or basically the income statement, right? So all you got to do is um, define the parameters. So which period you want to see, which month, from which month to which month, or which date to which date, right? And then you will see the figures getting updated in here. Okay, so these are just for viewing purposes, right? Transactions will be done in here. So you have your expenses, then you have your vendors. Vendors, those are the payees, your most likely your payees, right? So when you pay either to your customer, sorry, either to your employees or to your vendors, right? So these are your suppliers if you are in a merchandising type of business, right? So what would I do with this? Let me go back. So as you can see, I'm a little bit behind on this client. There were transactions as early as August that I have not been able to enter because I was very busy. But because this is online and I am maintaining this client for quite a while already, I already know how to manage. Okay, so even if I'm behind, it's not going to impact my client's um, business. Okay, so let me show you just this one. Okay, so this is a transaction that he wants me to enter. This was a subscription that he pays every month for a vendor called Service Fusion, right? So the amount is $99, right? So this is the company business name, and this is his details here, right? So what I do is go into QuickBooks, right? And I know pretty much that the transaction I have already entered similar transactions in the past, right? So rather than going to new transaction and click on expense, right? That's one way to enter the expense, right? If I'm starting it from scratch, but because this is a subscription, that means it happens every month. I must have the same transaction in the past months, right? So what I do is go in here, I filter payee, I type in, so Service Fusion, that's a vendor. I hit on apply. So all the results here will be for payments made to Service Fusion, right? So as you can see, there's a lot already, right? Last transaction was for June. So I open that up, right? So this is how it worked. So this is the payee. This is the credit card or the bank account used to pay the transaction. This was the payment date. This is the account information or the GL account. So you charge that under office supplies and software, right? Because that's an expense, right? So if it's manual bookkeeping, we would debit office supplies and software, $99, credit to cash in bank or cash, $99. But in a computerized bookkeeping, you do not do that anymore. There's no more debit, there's no more credit, right? You just simply have to fill out a form. So what you can see on your screen right now is actually a form, right? So you just have to fill in the necessary fields. So what type of expense was that? It was related to an office supplies, so you use the office supplies account, right? So if you can see here, this is your chart of accounts, right? Now, if you do not know what you're doing, you may mistake this transaction as an officer salary. doing this as an officer salary will be a big mistake, right? Because you know for a fact that the nature of transaction is a payment to an office subscription, a system subscription, not a salary, right? So you will have to use the most appropriate account. It cannot be meals and entertainment either, right? It's not related to that. It cannot be interest paid, right? So you have to use your accounting knowledge in here. So if you're given this transaction and you're starting it from scratch, like you don't have any experience, this is a new client, and the client told you to, hey, enter this transaction into my QuickBooks account. So you'll have to analyze, right? What is this? What is this transaction about? So you can see here that this is a subscription. This is Service Fusion. You may ask your client, what is Service Fusion? Your client will tell you, okay, Service Fusion is actually a system that I use, and I'm charged $99 for that subscription every month, right? So now you will have an idea, okay, that's related to an office expense, and it's a software. So what am I gonna use as an account? So office supplies and software, right? You have that existing in your chart of account. And description, this is pretty much your explanation, right? So when you do the manual bookkeeping, you do debit, you credit, and then the last line will be an explanation, right? So your accounting one teacher taught you about that. And then, of course, you do not forget about the amounts. At some point, it may ask you to enter these details. Like if you're working on a specific project or there are several projects, then you will have to identify for what project that expense relate to, right? So if you're working on a client, say a construction company, right? So you have, I mean, your client will have 5 projects. Now, if you're charging that particular expense to a specific project, then you will have to identify here your project name. So it could be project A, project B, project C. If you don't, then that becomes a generic transaction, right? Which could later on be allocated, or it may not be allocated at all, right? But this ones we will not be covering in this class. That will be, this is more advanced, but you will get to understand how these works as you go along. It's gonna come naturally, okay? And then you will have the option to attach a document. So if you have a physical invoice, then you can actually attach that one in here. I will show you how to do it. Now, okay, as I've told you, this was a transaction that was for June, right? So that attachment, if I open that up, you can see that it actually is just the email that the client sent me, and the date was June 30, right? So that was also the same date that the payment was made. Okay. So now the task is to enter this transaction. What's the date for this transaction? August. So if it's August 4, then it's most likely for July, right? Because we have entered already for June, right? So this particular charge for subscription is most likely going to be for the month of July. Because if it's a monthly subscription, guys, it cannot be that you will not be charged for a particular month, right? So you cannot just say the last invoice that you receive was for June. Then just because you received the email from your client in August, you will enter the transaction in August, right? You will ask yourself, what about the invoice for July, right? So it will tell you that because you received it on August 4th, this invoice will be applied for July, right? Not August, but July. So what I do here is click on more and then just simply copy the transaction, right? Copy because I will have pretty much the same details, right? So details like the pay, the amount, the payment it was charged from, right? So Notice that because I copied that, tells me here, this is just a copy of an expense. So revise as needed and save the expense, right? So same payee, same bank account, same amount, different date, right? So payment date was for August 4th, right? Credit card, the same thing, the same account, the same description, the same amount, right? But of course, different attachment. So I'm going to be removing this attachment. This is no longer applicable to that. And what I do is for this one, simply had to print this into PDF. Right, so that's PDF. I save it. On my desktop, for example. Then I can go back here, get onto attachment, go to desktop, put that in here, and open. Right, so that's my attachment. Hold on, sorry. Let me rename this. Just say so that it's going to make more sense. So I go back here, simply just delete that, click on attachment, go back here, then open it. Right? So easy, right? I don't have to fill in this from scratch because I simply had to copy and then hit on save. So when you hit save, it just basically will save the transaction, but the view of your screen would still be the same thing, right? As compared to when you hit save and new, this all will be gone, right? It's going to prompt you to enter a new transaction. So that's the difference between save and save new, okay? Then before I go any further, let me take a screenshot of this. So I'm gonna take a screenshot of this transaction and then copy that. And then I'll reply to this. Right? And then I hit send. Right? That's done. So I already entered one transaction in the QuickBooks Online account for a client, right? Am I done? Of course not yet. I still have several, guys, as you can see here. So that's a lot of work to do, but I will do it later without you because the purpose of showing you this is only for you to understand how QuickBooks Online works, right? And this one, as you can see, he forwarded his credit card statement. This is for me to do bank reconciliation. So bank reconciliation we will cover as we go along. Um, that will be covered in the subject, yes, because this is a very basic task to do. And with QuickBooks Online, this is very this is a very important thing to do, but this is very easy to do in QuickBooks Online. I will show it to you one of these days. Okay, so we're done with that. I'll just quickly show you the difference if it was should that transaction have been a new one. Instead of copying it, I actually need to do it as a new transaction, right? So that was an expense, so I hit on expense. Notice that when I do that, all of these are blank, right? I will have to fill in the fields um, as a new item, right? So of course, where do I get the information? I'll get the information from the invoice, right? Or from the receipt. So if put that into um, the context of a local business in the Philippines. So your client, if you're a bookkeeper, will give you receipts, right? Mga resibo sa iyang expenses, resibo sa iyang gipang kumpra, right? So as a bookkeeper, you will manually enter that into the books of accounts, right? The journal, for example. It's pretty much the same thing in online bookkeeping, right? Except that receipts will be forwarded to you in the form of an email, right? So this is the way to go if it's an entirely new transaction or a new vendor or um, a new transaction that you haven't come across in the past. Then that's what the new transaction is for. Later on, you will also understand what these items are for: new time, activity, bill, difference between a bill and an expense, a new check, new PO. This one we will not cover. Vendor credit we will not cover. Pay down credit we will not cover. But you will also have access to this in your trial accounts. Okay, these are basic ones. Okay, so much for that. Time is almost running out. Um, I'm gonna stop sharing now. So stop presenting. So again, that was just a preview of what you'd be expecting in this object. I hope that the material I showed you um, did not intimidate you, but actually encourage you to do better in this class. I'm not going to be the typical teacher which require you a lot of things to do in as far as this subject is concerned. But what I'm after is for you to embrace this because it will be for your benefit. You know, if you learn this new skill, you will become marketable in the workplace. Um, okay, before I go, just so you will understand, okay, how important it is to know this. Let me share you. So if you just Google example, you will see a lot of opportunities for QuickBooks Bookkeeper. And see, that's $15 an hour if you are an experienced bookkeeper. So QuickBooks Desktop, again, we are not using that. But should you be using QuickBooks Desktop in the future, if you know how to do the online version, it will not be difficult for you to learn desktop. Right, so these are actually online jobs, guys. And there is, if you haven't heard of this, try researching about this. So this is a platform where a lot of um, online jobs are posted, and you get paid by the hour. And then type in um, QuickBooks Bookkeeper. So these guys are QuickBooks Bookkeeper. So look at the rates. Look at the rates, right? So if you are going to take this seriously, I'm sure that you can do, or you can get a client in Upwork. So let's just find Philippines. See, this one is an Upworker based in the Philippines, right? And she's charging $6 an hour. This one is charging $15 an hour. Why? Because she's a certified QuickBooks Pro advisor, freelancer. So she's got a license in with QuickBooks. But don't worry, guys. Certified QuickBooks Pro advisor, that's free, right? It's free, but it's not an easy exam. Um, um, it's provided. All the materials are provided by QuickBooks, and also the certificate. But you will really have to spend time learning the materials, okay? Because it's not an easy exam. It's not easy to pass. But if you are a pro advisor certified, then you can charge as much as this amount. And imagine how much that would be in peso, right? If it's an hour rate compared to this lady here who charged only $6 because you don't see her being certified, right? Although she's experienced with QuickBooks, Excel, and whatnot. This one is most likely an accountant. Take a look if we can see her. You see, she's in Cavite, and she has earned so far $1,986. Imagine, it's not too bad, right, for an online job. Let's look at Gracie. Gracie's from Marikina. She's earned 4,520 so far, right? So I'm gonna stop presenting. You can research more about those at your own in your own time. But what I'm doing is just giving you an idea, okay, of where this new skill, new system will take you if you are gonna take this seriously. Right? I'm not encouraging you that after this subject you will drop your subject, you will no longer be pursuing your course simply because you're already earning through Upwork or through any other online job platform. It's just a new skill, right? It's just a new skill that you're learning, and it's only just a part time, right? It still is different when you have your own degree, right? It's still gonna help you navigate through the real world. It's different when you're applying for a job and you don't have a degree as compared to someone um, who has earned a degree, a 4-year degree for that matter. But in the online environment, though, some employers do not really care if you have a degree, so long as you can deliver the job or you know the job, right? But there may also be applicant or um, employers who are very particular, right? So they will look for a bachelor's degree holder, so with all those typical requirements that employers require. But um, I find that most of the clients or prospect clients or employers in Upwork, they don't really care about your bachelor's degree. They care about your experience, they care about your skills, They care about your attitude. Okay. So just 1 second, guys. Okay. Let me just answer this call. Sorry, guys. Can you still hear me though? Okay, pa. Okay, so yeah, it's almost about time as well. Um, Again, I just hope that you are able to understand what it is that I'm trying, what it was that I tried to show you earlier. And I think that you can already start accessing the material. Few hours from now, I will make that available. I already preloaded the materials actually, but I um, restricted the access because I wanted to meet with you first. Okay, so sort of a background or a preview of what you're going to be getting into as soon as you start taking the lessons. Okay, and I don't have time to entertain questions at the moment, but if you do, again, please use the Moodle discussion board. And there's a reason why I haven't reached out to you on Facebook, Messenger, in Gmail, or what any other platform, because I want everything to be done in Moodle. Okay, I want to everything to be done in Moodle. That's how you will learn how to use the system. Okay. And that's the only way you will communicate with me on Moodle. Anything that's urgent, as I have already mentioned in the introductory video and in my notices, that you will only email me or message me on my mobile number if it's anything that's urgent and important. If it's not urgent, although it's important, you can put that in a discussion board or in the messaging platform of Moodle. If it's urgent but not important, again, in Moodle. Okay? Only when it's urgent and important that you will message me on my private accounts. Okay? I hope that's clear. And that's about it. Thank you very much for your time, you guys. You all have a great day. Keep safe. Bye bye.